My name is Laura Baker, and I wanted to give a real shout out to my fellow Americans because although Pajama Party Press uses humor as a tool for social commentary, the issues that I have felt drawn to, the issues that I've lived, are no joke. And so the next few videos will be spent talking about why it is that I felt the need to make a departure from traditional hospital chaplaincy to lend support to people that are trying to survive. Gandhi said that poverty is the worst form of violence, and that's not just a metaphor. There is physical injury that happens with poverty in terms of a lack of access to health care, the loss of longevity and quality of life, and there is also the diminishment of life chances in the form of the dreams and hopes and opportunities we pray we will have for ourselves and our children. And I want to talk about what nearly took me out of the game. It wasn't the disease. It was a lot of issues that I see you struggling with. And I see that you are having to be very strong. And there may not be anybody that's telling you that you're actually doing a good job. Because usually when you're entrenched in a really difficult battle, you may not be looking good because the person who's not breaking a sweat may not necessarily be the winner of the race, because you never know by looking how the distance that somebody's had to come just to be there in that moment. And so I also want to say that I feel genuinely fortunate to be here and to be able to be with you on this day, January 9th, 2014. And it's not a coincidence that when I sat down to make this recording that I thought of someone I haven't thought of in a while. It's a woman I used to work with, and her name is Gwen. We served as chaplains together, and she was coming off of a 24-hour shift one day, and I was relieving her, and she had bruises everywhere. She went to the hospital across the street, and they tried to keep her because she was in pretty bad shape by the time that she got there. And she was diagnosed with leukemia, and she didn't tell anybody. She went home so that she could enjoy a day before a day to be normal with her 3 kids, with her husband, who she was so in love with, Michael. And she had ideas about what she wanted to do. And I recently was at the hospital where we worked, and there was a library where we could check out books. And I saw her name on the sign-up sheet, and the book that she had checked out was When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And she was a funny person. She had a plan that when she recovered, she was going to get this platinum-colored poodle and dye her hair the same color. And they were going to have this ministry circuit. And obviously, she's not here. And so I think about her spirit as I do this work and the book that she checked out. And it's obvious also that I'm a pretty unorthodox chaplain, but I promise that it is with everything that is in me that I give myself to this work. And I hope to give you something to hang on to, hope that goes beyond a pretty ideal. Because words are pretty cheap. And how I became a chaplain in the first place was I spent the better part of my career teaching art in the inner city schools of Kansas City, Missouri, where I have very, very fond memories. And the last school I was transferred to was affiliated with Children's Mercy Hospital. That was no coincidence. And, you know, it was a pretty natural progression to seek employment as a hospital. Not as a hospital, but in the hospital. And also, I had lost the majority of my family, immediate and extended. And you can't really lose 18 people and not become somewhat of a student of loss. And I also had my time in the hospitals, and because of that, I can see when the grief process is happening in arenas that you might not ordinarily associate with loss. And if you are living in the United States at this time, there's a very high chance that you're undergoing the suffering that is associated with multiple significant loss. And so why does that matter? You know, like what difference does the label make? You know, and my answer to that would be the same reason that somebody with a constellation of symptoms, that they're puzzled by their fatigue and their physical pain, and later find out that they had systemic lupus or cancer. That's pretty significant. It's an explanation as to, oh, no wonder. And I think a lot of people feel like they're dying inside and they don't know why. The depth is so insurmountable. And it's not that Americans are drowning in debt, it's that they're drowning in despair. And the toll on our spirits has been great. And I see another layer to it that I don't think I would have seen if not for my history and some circumstances that conspired to thrust me into not only the darkest part of my life, but into everything that is wrong right now with our culture. And obviously, you know, if 18 people in my family died, then something was awry. And there were some pretty tragic deaths. Most of my family members died before they reached my age, which, you know, I'm pretty youthful looking, so you can imagine. So it's a statement about how bad things are that somebody with that kind of background feels the need to shift gears and address instead workplace issues of work, the lack of work, the lack of a living wage, and the evil that people are up against, the unbudgeable, immovable refusal to be fair, to not be greedy. So there's a lot. But I'll start with this. I thought I really knew something about endurance. I might have even been a little bit proud. Kind of a pain snob with all my little, grave markers that I could put on my resume. But I didn't know anything about endurance. I used to love the saying, endurance is not only bearing a hard thing, but turning it into glory. And I always, it always brought to mind a teacher that talked about how we devote our work for the honor and glory of God. And I still really dig that part, but the endurance part, didn't know what endurance could entail. And what nearly took me out of the game